Abdullah Baabood, the chair of the State of Qatar for Islamic Area Studies at Waseda University. Abdullah, apologies for that. The technology gets the better of us. You were explaining to us why you think international diplomacy has been a complete and utter failure at resolving the conflict.
Well, it's not new. It's not just because of this conflict. And this conflict, basically, Adnan, is not new. It didn't start on 7th of October. This is a 70-years-old conflict, and the world has subjected this conflict to benign neglect, thinking wrongly that normalization, the deal of the century, Arab countries will establish relations with Israel. It will overcome the conflict, and basically the Palestinian question is going to be ignored. But this is, this crisis now tells us and informs us that you cannot ignore people under occupation, and you cannot ignore human rights that the Israelis are committing every day. There is, and against international law, there is an occupation, illegal settlements, there is oppression against the Palestinians. And basically, Hamas and the Palestinian who support Hamas basically rebelled against this. And in fact, I think the world is taken by surprise because they didn't know what to do. At one point here, where we were seeing that there were normalization, deal of the century, and all that ho-ha, and then suddenly there is a crisis, a major crisis, where atrocities are being committed, and the world has not really waken up to the fact that you cannot ignore and just try to manage crisis that way, and you have to find the solution to the Palestinian problem. And that is, for us from the region, it is really, we cannot understand how the world is thinking about this. How do they want to resolve this? If they don't want to resolve the Palestinian problem, it's not going to, Israel is not going to live in peace. And no one in the region, in fact, is going to live in peace. And also Western interest and international interest are going to be affected, as we can see from the, how the escalation is taking place, not only between Hamas and Israel, but also, in the Red Sea. We've seen it in Lebanon. We've seen it with Syria and Iraq. So the crisis could get out of hand and could bring the whole world into a real, very costly conflict unless this Palestinian issue is sorted once and for all. Yeah. And according to the United Nations resolutions.
Yeah, there seems to be a huge divide between the global north and the global south about how they're looking at what's happening. Abdullah, on Friday, the International Court of Justice in The Hague will make an interim judgment on the genocide case brought against Israel. If the ICJ were to call for a ceasefire, because it won't make a definitive judgment for years on whether Israel has been committing genocide or not. But on Friday, if it calls for a ceasefire, presumably it won't make any difference to Israel, but might it make a difference to the United States? And that could be important if it does.
Well, we hope that this is going to happen. We hope that the ICJ is going to take a decision for a ceasefire. I think it's well overdue. 25,000 people are being killed, and plus many thousands more that are missing or injured, and we don't know the numbers because of the situation there. The crisis is getting worse. Israel is basically, and the Israeli government, Netanyahu's government, is basically every day trying to just take revenge of the Palestinian people, destroying their homes, their houses, their hospitals, their roads, their schools, their universities and colleges, and stopping, almost trying to make life impossible for them in Gaza. And I think this has got to stop, and the world community has got to stop it. And we are really surprised that no one has, especially from the Western powers, has called for a ceasefire. I don't know what they want to get. Israel is not going to get what its objectives is, declared objective, if either destroying Hamas or getting the prisoners. There are other ways that they can do that. We've seen that exchange of prisoners, of hostages, can help in that. If we can have a ceasefire, we could have we can save lots of lives, etc. I think if the ICJ takes that decision, it will embarrass the United States. It will embarrass other Western governments. And I think if they don't call then for a ceasefire, I think they will face the international public opinion that you are really supporting here what is considered by the ICJ or maybe feared that it is a genocide that's been committed against the Palestinians. I think that could help a long way, or could get a long way. Also, it will empower people within the United States who are calling for ceasefire against their own government wishes. And I think it will waken up the international public opinion to be much more forceful for calling for a ceasefire, because that is basically, it's gone beyond what one would expect from a revenge. This is really a mass atrocities, mass murder that is being committed right in front of our eyes, and no one can deny that. And I hope that that the ICJ ruling will call for immediate ceasefire and will continue their investigation for genocide as well. And I hope that the global conscious and the world conscious will wake up to see what is being committed at this day and age that is basically beyond any kind of imagination. So that is what we expect, and I hope that will happen.
Thank you so much for negotiating the technical issues we had with you and coming back to us. Really appreciate it. Take care, Abdullah.